Hi, boys and girls. This is Miss Simpson here. And here I am going to be putting up some read alouds, kind of like we used to do in class. So you guys can get a chance to hear some stories and get to see your teacher on her YouTube. So the first story that we're going to do for our read aloud is one of the Magic Treehouse books. So I know that we used to read these in class and we loved them. And so I picked one here. It's called Twister on Tuesday. And this happens to be number 23 in the Magic Treehouse series. So what we're going to do is you guys are going to listen along with me. I'm going to read a couple chapters at a time and then stop and leave in the comments some questions for you so that you can kind of participate along with me and answer some questions that follow along with this story. So if you guys forgot, there's the two main characters in the Magic Treehouse books, and they are Jack and Annie. So we're going to get started. And so this is Twister on Tuesday by Mary Pope Osborne. So I'm going to have us start off with the prologue, and yes, I will stop to show you the pictures, of course, like always. And this is just going to give us some background information on what's been happening in the Magic Treehouse books. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. 8-year-old Jack and his 7-year-old sister Annie climbed into the treehouse. They found that it was filled with books. Jack and Annie soon discovered that the treehouse was magic. It could take them to the places in the books. All they had to do was point to a picture and wish to go there. Along the way, Jack and Annie discovered that the treehouse belongs to Morgan Le Fay. Morgan is a magical librarian from Camelot, the long-ago kingdom of King Arthur. She travels through time and space gathering books. In Magic Treehouse books 5 through 8, Jack and Annie helped free Morgan from a spell. In books 9 through 12, they solved 4 ancient riddles and became master librarians. In Magic Treehouse books 13 through 16, Jack and Annie had to save 4 ancient stories from being lost forever. In Magic Treehouse books 17 through 20, Jack and Annie freed a mysterious little dog from a magic spell. And in Magic Treehouse books 21 through 24, Jack and Annie have a new challenge. They must find 4 special kinds of writing for Morgan's library to help save Camelot. They are about to set off to find the 3rd of these. Chapter 1 is called Tuesday. Jack opened his eyes. Sunlight streamed through the window. "Tuesday," he whispered. Morgan's note had told him and Annie to come back to the Magic Treehouse on Tuesday. He could hardly wait to find out where she was sending them today. Jack scrambled out of bed. He threw on his clothes. He packed his notebook and pencil into his backpack. Then he headed into the hall. Jack bumped into Annie. She was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. "Tuesday," they both whispered. Together, they hurried down the stairs. "Mom, Dad, we're going out for a few minutes," Jack shouted. "Do you want breakfast first?" his dad called from the kitchen. "When we get back," said Annie. They rushed out the front door. They ran down their street in the bright summer sunlight. A warm wind gently shook the trees as Jack and Annie headed into the Frog Creek woods. Soon, they came to the tallest tree in the woods. The Magic Treehouse waited for them in the high branches. Jack and Annie grabbed the rope ladder and climbed up. Inside the shady treehouse, the note from Morgan was still on the floor. "Dear Jack and Annie, Camelot is in trouble. To save the kingdom, please find these 4 special kinds of writing for my library. Something to follow, something to send, something to learn, and something to lend. Thank you, Morgan." "Okay," said Jack. "We have the first writing, something to follow." He picked up the list from the Civil War. "And we have the second," said Annie. Something to send. She picked up a letter from the Revolutionary War. Now we need the third, said Jack. Something to learn. No problem, said Annie. She grabbed a book laying in the corner. I hope we're not going to another war. Jack and Annie looked at the cover. It showed a field of tall green grass. The title was Life on the Prairie. The prairie, said Annie. We already went to the prairie that time we met Black Hawk. Yeah, said Jack, remembering their adventure with the Native American boy. He opened the book and turned to a picture of an old-fashioned train crossing the prairie. Oh, he said, I get it. Trains crossed the prairie after the pioneers came. When we went to the prairie before, Native Americans were the only people who lived there. So we must be going to the pioneer time, said Annie. I think so, said Jack. He pointed at the picture that showed the train crossing the prairie. I wish we could go there, he said. The breeze picked up. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Signs of Life. Jack opened his eyes. He was wearing pants with suspenders and a shirt with the sleeves rolled up. In the place of his backpack was a leather bag. Annie was wearing a long dress and a sunbonnet. I like my hat, she said. It'll keep the sun off my face. Yeah, except the sun's not shining, said Jack. He and Annie looked out the window. The sky was cloudy. The treehouse had landed in a small grove of trees near a creek. Beyond the trees was a wide open prairie. Green grass and wildflowers swayed in the chilly wind. In the distance, a train puffed across the prairie. Sparks of fire came out of its smokestack. Huge clouds of black smoke billowed into the gray sky. Wow, said Jack. He looked at the picture of the train in their book and read. After the Civil War, the U.S. government built railroads to link the eastern and western parts of the country. By the 1870s, steam engines carried people across the Kansas Prairie. Jack pulled out his notebook and wrote, 1870s, trains across Kansas. Let's get going, said Annie. We have to find that special writing for Morgan. She started down the ladder. Jack packed his things in his leather bag and climbed down after her. When he stepped onto the ground, Jack looked towards the west. The train was gone. Only a thin trail of smoke floated across the sky. That train was cool, said Jack. Yeah, and so is that, said Annie. She pointed in the other direction. Far away in the distance, a line of covered wagons rolled through the rippling grass. Their white coverings billowed in the breeze. Jack pulled out the research book. He found a picture of the wagon train. He read aloud. Wagons were the most common way for families to travel west. They could carry clothes, tools, food, and water. A line of wagons was called a wagon train. The white cloth covering over the wagons also made them look like sailing ships or schooners. For this reason, covered wagons were sometimes called prairie schooners. Jack looked at the wagons again. They did look like ships sailing across a rippling green sea. He wrote in his notebook, covered wagons equals prairie schooners. Let's get a closer look, said Annie. She took off across the grass. Jack put away his things and ran after her. As they ran, the wind began to blow harder. The clouds overhead grew darker. Wait, wait, Jack finally called to Annie. We'll never catch up to it. They both stopped running. Panting, they watched the wagon train vanish over the horizon. Jack took a deep breath. "What now?" he said. They looked around. All Jack could see was a distant grove of trees with the treehouse. With the train and the wagon train gone, there were no signs of life anywhere. No pioneer cabins, no Native American teepees. "How can we find the special writing?" said Jack. "There's nothing out here." "Oh, yeah?" said Annie. "What's that?" She pointed to a rusty pipe sticking out from the top of a small hill. Streaming from the pipe was a column of black smoke. "Oh, man," said Jack, "that's definitely a sign of life." And that is the end of chapter 2. So next time, when you join, we are going to be starting on chapter 3, which is called One Room Schoolhouse. So, your question for today is, who do you think could be living in the place that has the pipe sticking out from the top of a small hill? Now, Jack and Annie say that's definitely a sign of life. Who do you think could be living there? Leave a comment or let me know, what do you guys think? Who could be living there? And tune in next time as we continue with reading Twister on Tuesday by Mary Pope Osborne. Have a great day.